Yes, hello everybody. Welcome back to another video. How you doing today? I hope you are all well. We have almost another game incoming. It's a really short turnaround from obviously Saturday morning. So we're going to discuss West Ham, and then we have a really long layoff until the next one, which is kind of irritating how we fill up all the time and space. And let's hope that we get a win, because even though the discourse isn't going to be bad if we lose, I expect lots of infighting and things. But more than that, it's just that I hope we don't sit here and, like, if we don't get a win, there's going to be nerves over, if Liverpool close the gap a little, over things about, like, we're still on the edge. We've got this nice gap, 5 points off of into those Europa League places, and hopefully the gap remains as such or bigger after tomorrow's match. And then that'll make the next couple of weeks a lot easier, because it's a long wait. And then we get quick turnarounds, and then we get another long wait, and then we get some turnarounds, and then we get another long wait. It's going to be a really hard next, 6 games. And especially since we have so much momentum right now, you will hope we don't lose it. We've seen that happen before with this team. Yeah. So hello everybody, how y'all doing today? I hope you are all well. I do want to discuss, we got some prime, opportune, exciting information to discuss that came at the exact right time, as it tends to happen, about Tonali and Baleba, because we were, of course, just yesterday talking about the concern with Carlos Baleba, that perhaps this is something that we may start moving away from, that we are, that there's been concerns over the price compared to his value, over the way that, Brighton are treating the situation and things like that. And then lo and behold, and we were listing out a bunch of names. Someone asked a good question about Tonali yesterday, and I want to discuss that because I was answering my concerns over attitude and things, and I've been given that a think, or some of this, not attitude, but the situations that have gone on. But then we got some really opportune timed news from Mike McGrath at The Telegraph about Tonali, right? As we're talking about other names, potential other names, talking about Tonali, talking about 9 other players, talking about a ton of other potential names that we might be looking at other than Carlos Baleba. So I want to talk a lot about that today. That's going to be the main subject of discussion, about what's really going on there, why we are seeing a bit of a shift in the priority in the way that we are looking to the midfield for the future, because of course in the future our midfield setup may be very different than what we were planning for last summer and what we've been planning for the last few months. And I was saying yesterday that the resurgence and the game of that what we're seeing from Kobe and things like that certainly do have to change and adjust the thinking of the club a little bit, because don't forget, even with Kobe, the club were willing to sell him for 40 million last year. So we can blame it all on Amarim, or you can blame it all on me. But there was a point that we're willing to let him go, per reports, as well. And so surely their thinking has to have been changed, or is being changed by his play under Michael Carrick. Obviously, there's still the contract situation to sort, but a lot of things have got to change. But Tonali is a really interesting link. It's a really interesting name to come up, and one that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Just makes a lot of sense for quite a few reasons from a purely football perspective that I would certainly take a look at. But let's start with Baleba and just address the kind of the elephant in the room in terms of the concerns here. Of all the midfielders that we're linked with, Carlos Baleba is probably the most 6-ish of the midfielders that we've been talking about in recent times, of these targets like Anderson and things like that. He's the most of his strengths right now, what he's still doing well, the things that he's still thriving in, are mostly down to playing defensively, right? His out of possession work, the things he's doing, lots high volume tackling, ball winning, things like that. He's, he can dribble the ball well. He's not getting up the pitch too much. He's not really doing as many of these other things. When you compare him to somebody like an Elliot Anderson or a Tonali or players like that are a bit more kind of box to box. And one of the questions that people have had is, well, are you pairing Anderson and Kobbie Mainoo? But there was a really interesting wrinkle, and this is a coincidence, okay? This is a bit of a coincidence that it looked this way in game, because I want to make very clear that, Carrick is not necessarily doing things in game right now that reflect our recruitment, recruitment policy moving forward. He's just doing things that make a little more sense. And it's funny because, I've said before that one of the really ironic things that we've done wrong with Kobbie Mainoo in the way that we've played over the years, even when we put him with Manuel Ugarte, is Ugarte is always dropped as the 6, sitting deep, picking the ball up off the center backs and then having to get it out of pressure and having to clean up. If you watch that Spurs game, Carrick did something that we should have been doing all along. And that I've specifically, I've had conversations about this on here and elsewhere about why this is it's such a stupidly obvious thing. But he switched them and had Casemiro going forward more, while Kobbie Mainoo was the sitter in possession, was sitting a bit deeper, being sort of more of like the fulcrum, cleaning up a little bit more, being a bit more of that anchor, the press-resistant player, flip things around a little bit. And if you were going to be forced into a situation of playing Ugarte and Kobbie, let's say because Casemiro was injured or something for the rest of the season, that would be the right way to do it as well. But for some reason, we were always doing it the other way around. And but if you think about that in terms of the long term of where we are going, Jason Wilcox, we already know, has a preference for a 4-3-3, a flat midfield, a more regular 3-man midfield, a more basic kind of regular setup that maybe has a bit more rotation, a bit more movement between, and obviously whoever's the coach, this is going to be, part of the discussion. Now, here's an interesting one here, and I've talked about this a little bit too, and I sort of hinted at this yesterday, but I wasn't certain on it. And Fabrizio has said something that I think is rather interesting on this front today. He says that United appreciate Tonali. This isn't the part that I'm talking about. United will wait to see if they qualify for Champions League, etc., etc. Under Amorim, the preferred option was Carlos Baleba. United could sign 2 midfielders this summer. And if you look at the way that Amorim's midfield was, needed defensive, like bulldog running, more of that in the midfield is what was necessary that we didn't have. If you look at Carrick's, or if you look at the future that we might set up in a 3, it's changing the nature of what we need a little bit more. And it actually makes Baleba a bit less important if you look at it. In the long term, you could certainly go with a more, Kobbie, Anderson, Tonali type of setup than, you would otherwise, than you would have previously. And so the shift in manager hasn't necessarily changed the names, but perhaps the view in the future of how our midfield is going to look has definitely changed a little bit. And then you have to add to that the same concern we were talking about yesterday. There are some concerns over the cost basis for Carlos Baleba, who still has a lot of potential, who is still a very good player, but you want to buy a potential price, not a guaranteed price. You don't want to pay Caicedo money. You don't want to pay, the money that Declan Rice money for a player who's 3 or 4 years or well removed from the prices and ability that they were showing. And so that's been the concern with Carlos Baleba in these recent weeks, is that the form has never picked up. That also as well, Brighton are in a situation, they don't have to sell. They don't have to raise money. They could say, well, if Baleba doesn't pick up, we're just going to hold him for another year. Next year, he'll come through, and then we'll sell him for a pretty penny at the end of that. So those are really the concerns with Carlos Baleba. And then enter, of course, into Tonali. And this is what I was looking for as well. I mentioned yesterday that we had, oh man, this is going to piss people off. The number of mistakes we make. We go all the way back to the summer where we got Donny van de Beek. And I mentioned that we had a lot of interest in Tonali in the past, actually, as well as an original option. And we had interest in Declan Rice in this same summer. But check this out. Okay, this is gold. The day before AC Milan completed a deal for Sandro Tonali, United sent a bid of around 40 million to Brescia. The player decided to stay in Italy. Just to make it clear, Man United have not lost Sandro Tonali. Main target in the midfield was Donny van de Beek, and they got it. Same price too. And the guy has always been convinced to stay in Italy, and he signed as a new AC Milan player. So, yet again, the sins of screwing up that midfield decision back then will haunt us for the rest of our lives. We missed out on Declan Rice. We missed out on Tonali. It was a disaster in that respect, and we ended up getting Donny van de Beek. But Tonali has been on United's radar for quite a long time, okay? And it's just crazy how we so consistently missed out on getting these midfielders at the right time and doing that. So that's the craziness of this whole situation here. When we look at it, and let's take a look at the type of player to some degree, at least statistically, we can look at of like a Tonali when we look at him, on this kind of chart. Okay. You've got Anderson here in the purple, who kind of does everything that Casemiro does, or in the red, excuse me, or pink, or whatever the hell you'd call it, and Casemiro. Tonali's a little bit different, but brings a lot of the same kind of strengths in terms of what on earth? In terms of duel winning, in terms of he's a decent passer. He's a bit of an all-rounder, box-to-box player, carries the ball a little bit better, but obviously, still a very much a box-to-box athlete and things like that. This is what Tonali brings to the table. And obviously, statistically, it doesn't tell you the whole tale. Top athlete, all of that. But Elliot Anderson and Tonali would make for, I think, a brilliant midfield pairing for Kobbie Mainoo, because with Kobbie Mainoo, you still want to pair him with players who are, can fill the gaps, who are athletically, have a higher ceiling from a standpoint of speed and sprint and things like that. None of these guys are really what I would say are defensive midfielders by natural trade as a whole. Like, they're not going to sit and shield and screen the back line, but I'm not sure that's what we're looking for. If you look at the way we've been playing recently, who's done that? Who's been the screen? Who's been sitting there just in front of the back line, rubbing around, breaking a play? Nobody. And a lot of teams don't really play that way, for the most part, overall. And they don't, they don't really, not that many people sort of do that anymore, I guess is what I'm saying. And to be fair, like, historically, I don't think obviously we've had Roy Keane and stuff, but I think people have often misclassified some of the players we've had, like Keane and such, as like sixes in the way of like a destroyer, because they've done a lot more than that. They've actually been much more defensive box-to-box players than anything, and some teams play with like a full-on sitting six. But if you watch them, even the examples a lot of you guys are giving, Rodri was definitely a cleaner upper, defensively very, very strong, but he was also very aggressive in going forward in key moments and things like that as well. And obviously, again, we're looking to more of a three-man midfield for the future and all of that. But it's mostly partnerships that are defending. Elliot Anderson is partnered with someone that defends. Caicedo is genuinely partnered. Zubimendi is partnered with Rice. There's a lot of it. And they're not necessarily the most elite defensive players in all phases, but they can be disciplined. And to be quite honest, when I look at like a Zubimendi, I'm thinking Kobbie Mainoo and thinking you partner, him like Zubimendi, you partner him with someone like Declan Rice, which I would compare to, not the same, but in a sense to an Anderson or a Tonali. Top athletes, physical players that can get around, that are a little bit different in their skill sets, and that way you protect and you accentuate and balance the team out. But what I wanted to say on this is that Tonali is, as I know it, and I posted this, he's looking for an exit from Newcastle. He's looking for an exit from Newcastle, and he has been offered to United by his representatives. He was also offered to Arsenal. I think that was reported publicly. He's been offered on a few occasions and is looking to go. Now, in order to get Tonali, of course, we would have to get Champions League. We have to get Champions League. There's no other. Here we go. Hold on. Trying to find something. All right. We'd have to get Champions League. That's the only way we'd be able to get him. Tonali wants to join a Champions League club. Obviously, it'd be very expensive. The same goes for Elliot Anderson. One of the things I do want to say out there is that there appears to be, some belief or rumors that, it's already done, Anderson to City. I don't think that there's any truth in that, like, at all at this point in time. There's a very interesting kind of narrative going around right now. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I've seen this, and I get why people are saying this. And some people might be in here who've been talking about this, about how, we really can't compete because we're not paying the wages for these players. And that's why we won't be able to purchase these types of players, that we're not going to be able to pay the same wages as other clubs. But guys, I'm sorry, I don't think you have that correct. Anybody who's saying that, I understand what is being said. Yes, our wage bill is lower. We also have a little bit of a smaller, more clearly defined squad, and we have a lot of young players in our team. I think that people have gotten a mistaken concept of wages and the types of wages that are on offer and have been structured over the last 5 years. For example, at Liverpool, they, during their entire run of being fairly successful under Jurgen Klopp, they had like one player over 250,000. And that was when Mo Salah got a new contract. And, and so it's not like this is, I don't know where people are getting this idea that every top team in the Premier League has been offering 350,000 in wages to everybody to sign them. Arsenal built their squad on ordinary wages in the bracket that we're talking about. They were in 5th and 6th in wages and slowly building up. Their wages are still fairly low. Arsenal built their squad on that basis. So did Liverpool. We already know for a long time that City have been throwing around massive money to everybody. So what? That they haven't gotten everybody because of that. We don't have to do that. I'm sorry, but I again, just knowing how these deals go and how football goes, I think it's a strong misconception, the idea that we have to pay top wages to win players over. That's not actually been how it's worked. We were able to bring Mbeumo when he had offers from 10 other clubs. We weren't necessarily the best offer for him in terms of wages. And the same goes for Cunha. And the same goes for some others, That's not really the case. It just hasn't been that way. And I'm a little confused by the idea that it has. But this is where, City can offer Marmoush 295 and Guehi 300. It does. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Look, we already know for a fact City are going to offer the most wages. Okay. Done. They'll offer the most wages. Good. Got it. Okay. They haven't signed every Premier League player over the last 10 years. They haven't signed every Premier League player over the last 5 years. They haven't signed these guys, and I get it. It's like, it's, I think everything at the moment is being written off of, social media likes and things like that. There's not actually like, I get it. He follows and likes some City players. Okay. So what? It's not real, at this point in time. Wait for solid, genuine reports on this to say that. But look, we're not going to compete on the basis of just throwing the most money out there. And City can do that if they want. And they have. And sure, it'll get them some players. But the idea that that's all that it matters isn't meaningful. We could finish very easily right behind City in the table. Very conceivably. We could finish right behind them in the table, and then what? We have a good football project. You have a main team here. You have this all established. It's all going to be about the two biggest things. Do we have a good football project? Do we have Champions League? Those are two things that are going to be on the table where players can look at it and go, okay, I have to decide where I want to go. I know I want to go to a top team. I know I want to go to somewhere where I can win trophies in the future. All right. Well, United and City, both in the Champions League, both looking good, both doing well. Who am I going to pick? Well, it's about presenting a more interesting project for the future. And obviously, you would say that City have had the best last 5 or 6 years, but we wanted people who want to join us, not just for the money. And it's at this point, it's purely speculative to say that Anderson is just going to go for the money. We don't know that. We know that they're going to offer more wages. We don't know that that's the deciding factor for Anderson. I have not seen a single report that says Anderson is going to choose based on the money. Someone should point me to that. And if anybody reliable has said that, then I'll say, you know what? Yeah, we probably can't compete. Haven't seen it yet. If that's the case, and if that's true, then whatever. But that's not where we've been, and it's funny because you look at like Semenyo now, and City apparently offered him a bum in terms of wages, and now they're calling him a flop over at City within 2 weeks. Within a month. They're calling him a flop and saying he's the worst winger, he's the worst forward, he's the worst striker. Like, look at how he's being treated over there at City already, and the whole narrative around him from paying a bunch in wages. How's that going to make people think? What's that going to result in? You know what I mean? It's whatever, man. We will see. I'm not so concerned about that. All I'm concerned about is that we get back into Champions League. And if we're in Champions League, then we can have discussions about these players. And we just have to put our best foot forward and say, this is why you should join us. This is why you should join us. This is why you should be a part of the Manchester United movement, because this club is on its way back. This is why you should come here. The glory of rebuilding United and putting it back on its perch. And the fact is that's why Cunha joined. That's why Mbumo joined. That's why Šeško joined. And we can convince others to join. We can convince others to join. We absolutely can. So I'm not concerned about that. I want players who want to come here to make United great again, right? Let's just be real. That's what we want players to join for. We need that. And we've heard that message a million times. So I get it. There's going to be more wages from other clubs. There's going to be more from this club and that club. City could offer more. Madrid offer more. Fine, whatever. I don't care. Do you want to make United great again? That's it. That's all that matters to me. So, but look, you have to bear in mind as well, next season, if we are in the Champions League, yes, we will be paying $200,000. You have to bear in mind something here, right? When you look at United's wages, and I don't have all the data in front of me, so I can't explain this in the charts, but it'll make for a good video for the next couple of weeks. Our wage structure has gone down to like fifth. We're about to clear $350 on Casemiro, Onana on $200,000 a week, We're about to clear like Rashford's wages in full, Sancho's wages in full, potentially Maguire's wages, maybe more. And you look at that and go, yeah, guys, we do have the money. Mbumo's wages are going up to around 200 if we get Champions League. Cunha's wages will go up to about 200 if we have Champions League. These guys' wages are going to go up if we have Champions League. We can offer 200. We can offer in that range for a Champions League season, and that's the money we have right now. We don't have to go crazy where we were giving Sancho 350,000 a week or something like that. You know what I mean? We don't have to do that anymore. So, but we have plenty of wage space. Here's what I wanted to show. And this is before we clear off even more. And it's also where Newcastle are in trouble. We have the third healthiest squad cost ratio. This is the cost of transfers and wages in the entire Premier League. And we're about to dump 57% of our revenue. So that means 10% is about 60 million. We're about to dump another 50 million. Hear that. We're about to dump another 50 million in wages or so if you actually total everything. It's enormous, the amount that we are going to be dumping. And that would make about 10% of this. It would bring it down to about 47% on our squad cost ratio this summer. You add to that, and it's low. Our wage bill is low. It can't be that low forever, right? Now, is there going to be a bump in some other wages? Yes, it'll go up about, not every player has it, and it ranges, and some of them do have more, some of them have less, but the 10% will drop, and then we'll be building back up about another, I think it's another like 8% or something will go up there, because that's not just wages, okay? Just to be clear, that's also transfer fees built in there, which are higher than our wages at present. So it's about 6% or 7% it'll go back up. So either way, we're going to gain like 3%. But look down here at Newcastle. They are one of the only clubs, if you notice, Villa are the other here. Newcastle and Chelsea, who have already got a penalty, are some of the only clubs in European competitions that are above the UEFA limit. Now, that's with them getting Champions League football. When Newcastle miss out on Champions League football and potentially Europa League and end up in Conference League, their revenues are going to drop, which means that squad cost ratio for them is going to get even worse. Newcastle are going to very likely be in a situation this summer where they are required to sell players in order to get into below those markers or be heavily penalized, and that's without signing anybody. They will need to cash in on some of their higher earners. They will need to cash in on some profitability. They will need to do that, okay? So they're in a real financial bind if you look into the Newcastle situation this summer. And that means that they will be forced to consider the sale of players. Now, some months ago, I mentioned that we might be looking to do a little bit of a raid on Newcastle. Okay, we might be looking to do a little bit of a raid on them. Might be checking things out a little bit. There are multiple players that United admire over there. I'm not saying they'll sell them. Lewis Hall, we would buy him. We would absolutely be looking at a player like him. Would they sell him? Don't know. That's going to be a tough sell. Livramento, there's a lot of admiration for, simply because he's a really good player. His injuries are a bit of a problem. Tonali, clearly now we have as a real option that we've got to take seriously. And Bruno G has been looked at in the past, but I think that that's one viewed as someone that is practically impossible to pull out of Newcastle. I would imagine he's near the bottom of players that they want to sell, or that they'd be willing to sell. But we do have to keep all of this kind of in mind too. Now, in terms of the cost, and then we can look at kind of the players a little bit. In terms of the cost here, look, if Tonali is approaching 90 to 100 million in the market, well, so is Anderson. So is Wharton. And I think Wharton doesn't make for necessarily a great partner from, I don't think necessarily he looks like you know, a great partner for Cobby in terms of speed. We've kind of discussed that before. But thanks, Ian. Appreciate that. But, you know, you have to look at like it's going to cost 80 to 90 to 100 million for virtually anybody that we want to get in terms of top players. And it's funny because we look at that as United fans right now, and I think a lot of us are like, should we pay 100 million for anybody? But what did Declan Rice go for? What did Moise Caicedo go for? The reality is, for midfielders, for top class midfielders, you would have to make the argument that that is market value. That is market price. That is what you pay for top midfielders in this league. And don't get it twisted. Newcastle have a really, really good midfield. I know they've been mediocre recently, but their midfield's the best part of their team and has been for an age. You know, this is market value for top Prem-proven midfielders. Yeah, he's going to cost a Tonali. Exactly. Did I miss something earlier? No, I didn't miss it. For some reason, I thought I missed something. All right. You know, that is the market price for these players. And when we went last summer and said, you know, that we were going to pay 70 for Mbumo, 60 for Cunha, you know, that seems to be market value for these wingers. But for midfielders, it's more. So who's in that bracket for me? I think as a footballer, Tonali's in that bracket. Now, the concerns about off-the-pitch stuff, the concerns about some of the things that have happened, I have them. I think it's sensible to have them. But we kind of just have to trust the club to do their due diligence on that, right? If they think it's a settled matter and there's nothing to worry about, fair enough. As a football player, here's what I'm saying. They're not going to buy him and factor in the risk of off-pitch issues. If there's a viewed risk of off-pitch issues, you're not buying him. So they're going to either feel like there's no off-pitch issues or they won't buy him. And if there's no off-pitch issues, then I think that Tonali is in that bracket. I think he's a really, really, really damn good player. I think that Anderson is in that bracket as well. I think Anderson is in that bracket. That's kind of what it takes. You know what I mean? I don't think Baleba is viewed as in that bracket right now. You're still paying for potential. And I understand this thing about form is, you know, temporary, etc., blah, blah, blah. But it's not form for Baleba. Like, when does it stop being form and you start to say, look, an entire bad season isn't good? You know what I mean? An entire bad season isn't it. You know, there's a difference in that situation when it's like, yes, I do understand form. But at the same time, like, when do you say form versus an entire bad season? Okay. Form is like, I don't know, man. Like, I understand the buy the dip, but there has to be a dip in price, Aaron, right? That's the difference, right? Like, if buy the dip, right? Like, let's say, if you're investing in crypto, this is not investment advice under any circumstances. Forget crypto, if you're investing in a house and the housing market is turned down, well, if the housing market's down, you don't pay top end dollar. You don't pay top dollar. You're not buying the dip unless there's a dip in the cost. So if there's no dip in the cost, then you're not buying the dip. You're just overpaying. You're just spending good money on bad. That's it. You know, you're not doing that. You know what I mean? So there has to be a dip in price, and that's the concern. I think we'd be willing to buy the dip on Baleba. But, like, where's the dip in price? Because we were looking at him after a good season with good potential at like 65 million? What about a bad season? Certainly there should be a dip below that. And then you still have to go like, well, you know, is it even worth it? Because there's a difference in dip in performance. You know, we're talking about football players. We don't necessarily want to like buy players who aren't playing well. If you look at Cunha and Mbumo, they were at the peaks of their careers when we purchased them. Not on the downswing. Now, I'm not saying Baleba's on the downswing of his career, but like, can you, like, who else? Here's an example I would give you. Who's a player? Can you think of another example? I challenge you in chat to think of this, and I'll think of it as well. Is there another player you can think of that was bought for significant money after a down season and it worked out? That doesn't have like a supreme track record of success, okay? Because like I'm looking at players and I'm going, look at all the guys we sold when they went down. And what happened to them later on? You know, especially in terms of a lot of like younger players without a proven track record of success. Like, I don't know, man. I can't see that. Like, buying somebody on when they're not doing well just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. I don't know. Scotty, but he went to a different league. He went to a different league, an easier league. And to be fair, it wasn't a down season. He scored like 15 goals or 12 goals this season. You know, he scored like 12 goals. He actually done really well at goal scoring. What he did in United the season before was pretty much exactly what he did later. You know, Havertz is still mid. I don't think Havertz has justified the price. I don't think any of that. Anthony Gordon from Everton to Newcastle, but look at Anthony Gordon now. How many goals he got? Salah was in his best form of his life at Roma at the time. He had come all the way up. You know, again, like there's players who've taken dips in their career, but they were picking things back up, you know, at that point in time. But again, when you talk about guys like Torres and Henry, you're talking about proven world-class players at some point in their career. Varane, like you're talking about proven world-class players. I'm talking about a guy, you don't know that Baleba is world-class. You're talking about potential. You're talking about a guy who you're hoping he can fulfill his potential, and he's going backwards right now. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, you know, that he's going backwards in his career at the moment. Like this is like last season he was good, not great, but there was potential. This season it's just mediocre. But look, it's whatever. The reality is that there's concerns. There's concerns over his play, right? And over his price, and that it hasn't come down or anything like that as of yet. There's just concerns. And you know, that's how we have to look at it. There's concerns. But yeah, Anderson obviously in the upswing. Tonali, you know, just a very, very solid player overall. High risk, high reward scenario. Yeah, but I don't know, man. Look, I at the mercy of being wrong, which I am plenty, and we all are plenty. I really liked Baleba. I really thought this is a really, really good player. It's really hard to watch him at Brighton. It's genuinely hard to watch him at Brighton. I don't know, man. You watch the games and you watch when he's playing there and you just go, what are you seeing that says 60, 70, 80 million there? He's not running people down. He's not passing the ball around. He's not like doing anything crazy. Like what are you, like, genuinely, what are you seeing at this point in time that tells you there's a top player in there? Like, what actually are you seeing with your eyeballs, not with your head? What do you see? that says top player. Because with Anderson, he's had bad games. He's had really good games. And in those really good games, you're seeing a guy who can spray the ball around all over the pitch, who gets around mobily. We saw him against us. He can pass, he can move, he can run, he can read the game, he can mark players out, he can defend, he can do all of that. He's winning tackles, he's crunching players. He's doing almost everything. And I look at Baleba and I go, I'm just not seeing him play. You know what I mean? Like, you got to see a player play to want to pay that kind of money.
Sangare instead. Does everything.
Look, I don't know enough. I can't say that I know enough. Baleba isn't even better than Siddiqui right now. I agree, because I've watched Sunderland and I go, I see Siddiqui crunching players. I see Matheus Fernandes at West Ham, who will be playing obviously tomorrow. And I'm seeing him putting some crazy passes. I'm seeing him, win the ball well. I'm seeing him move the ball well. I'm seeing him do things that stand out where I'm going, I see a player there. Look at our own team. I'm looking at Baleba and I'm going, what are we doing here? Like, he's not getting in our team. He's not doing anything that Kabi isn't doing better right now. He's not doing anything that Casemiro isn't doing better right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's not doing any of those things. I look at him and I'm like, I just don't know, man. But you can't pay a premium. And when every time I've watched Tonali and we've played against him, I'm like, this guy's running us over. Powerful, strong, he stands out in some capacity. And look, we're not building a mid-table team. We need players who stand out on the pitch. We need players who stand out. Like, just understand that we're not just talking about like you see the game, you know what I mean? Look at the wins that we've been having recently under Carrick, and that people have been rightly pointing out and gassing up and hyping Kabi and these. Why? Because they're doing things that stand out. They're doing things that impress. They're doing things that you go, holy shit, like that is top class. They're doing things, they're beating the oppositions. They're beating the players that they're playing against. But to be the best, that's the requirement. You watch Mbeumo every week and you're going, that's a forward. You're watching Bruno and he's doing crazy things. You're watching Kabi's doing crazy things. And that's why we're winning. Because we have players who are doing things that stand out over the opposition. And when we buy players, it should be the same. Think about Cunha last season. Why were so much of us sold on Cunha? Because if you watched Cunha play football last year before we bought him, if you watched him at Wolves, even when they were shit, even when they weren't good, he stood out like every game, making things happen, clear head and shoulders above the rest of his team in terms of performance. And the same for Mbeumo. Head and shoulders above the rest of his team. When you used to watch Declan Rice at West Ham, he was the heartbeat of that team. He was everything for them and everywhere for them. And he was the captain and it was all of that. When you watched Caicedo at Brighton, he was running the game. And frankly, the same for McAllister too. He was successful when he moved over to Liverpool. He was really, really good. They stood out. I think it is a concern if you're watching players that don't stand out. Because then you can say, well, they're one for the future. And I agree with that. But then it's got to be one for the future prices. Because what would you rather do? Go and get a Buati for 40 million, who's one for the future, or pay double that for Baleba, who's one for the future? Why? Pay for different prices for different players, for different situations. You have to put them in a different bracket. You're going to pay standout prices for a standout player. And I think that those are kind of the options moving forward. But Tonali is definitely an option. He's definitely someone to consider. He's definitely, in that route. Yeah. He's definitely in that in that bracket. Of a player we're really looking for that's, high up on the list and is someone we will strongly consider. And a part of that is because we are changing, in essence, the way that we're looking forward to build the midfield in the future. That's for sure. That's what we're doing. So, a really interesting option there. I was kind of I was looking at some of these like charts and things about some of these players and seeing like where they stood out. Tonali is interesting. Someone's pointed this out, but to look at Tonali actually this is just aerials, for example, because obviously we'd be losing the Casemiro thing. Tonali's actually got a pretty good record in terms of his percentage of aerial duels won, because that was one concern when we're losing Casemiro is we have good box players. He's got a decent record in the air, but the numbers are really low. He doesn't attempt a lot of, isn't very combative in the air. Anderson's sort of right in the middle. That's still one thing I would be concerned about, as well in general is, what we may lose in that respect that we need to replace. Not that a lot of players fix that, but I think that for me, that almost has to be solved with the center backs, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't see a way you solve the aerial problems, the height problem in our team without that. I mean, if you look at Chelsea, they don't really have standouts. Caicedo and Enzo, are not really standouts. Caicedo's all the way down here in the air as well. Onana's certainly a standout in that respect and could be a really interesting one. But I doubt that we could. Right, so, the standouts in possessions, one. Carrying, I think, is an S rate. Aggressive carries per night. Gets the ball up to pitch. So annoying that it includes some players like Cherky who are clearly not, like, actually midfielders and a little bit more but better at this. There's like Tonali in this. So Tonali shows up quite well over here, right? On the right side. High dribble success rate, pretty good progressively. That's something that I would say we're lacking. Obviously, Casemiro, not much of a dribbler. Anderson, a bit more of a passer as well. Tonali brings a dribbling, aspect that is, I think, quite effective too. So there's a lot of reasons to like him. I think he's a different player to Anderson, and that's why I look at it and think, to some degree, I feel like it. The ideal plan is going to be both, because we want two midfielders this summer, like Cunha and Mbeumo, that we go for two top players, and I think those two could be the guys. I'm not gonna lie. If we could get Champions League, I wouldn't. That could be it. Like it might have been Baleba and Anderson before, with the doubts, with the cost things, with all of that. Could we look to both Tonali and Anderson, where you're getting Tonali as someone who can carry the ball forwards and box crash a little bit more. Anderson passes it around a little bit. Manu can be a bit more of like an anchor, press resistant, coming off of the back line type of thing. It could make for a really cool balance. But I think that's, again, why Anderson's a top target, is adding the passing profile to the game as well that we need from the midfield. Though Kobbie's been doing things with the pass that I've just not seen him do in his career before. But yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. I'd be quite happy with those two as well. I mean, it'd be amazing. Look, I think about it and I'm like, we just need to fix the midfield once and for all, don't we? We just need to be done with this. And I know it feels like, I go back and forth, like it feels like it'd be so much money to be getting these top players and all of that. But like, we just have to fix the midfield. We just have to. We have to just get it done. Whatever it costs, we need a top quality midfield. Look at how good we are because of the forwards we bought. Look at how good we are because of Cunha and Mbeumo and just getting top class forwards in. And just imagine how good we'd be if we had the same quality and depth in our midfield. It's worth every penny. I think it cannot be overspent on in that respect. You know, I think we just can't. Been saying this since Carrick left. I know, it's crazy. And we've never really, really committed to it. You know, and so the prices sound crazy and all of that, but it's the price. These are the prices. This is the money. You know, and I think right now is potentially this summer the best summer. The most, this is the midfield summer. You know what I'm saying? Last year was like there was a ton of forwards moving around, and we ended up snagging 3 of the best. Strikers were flying all over Premier League. You know, forwards were flying, wingers were flying, strikers, like everybody was switching up their forward line. And we ended up doing a good job, and we came out of the noise with 2 of the best forwards in the Premier League. And a good striker from outside the Premier League. That market is going to be the midfield this summer.
Fernandez, Tonali and Sanderberg, and get rid of Ugarte as well as Casemiro. Midfield sorted.
That's pretty good too. I mean, I do like that. You know, I do like that. We have the most balanced front 3 in the league. I think if you look at all players, yes. My only concern would be, oh man. I mean, I'm not opposed. That's a good midfield in terms of depth. You know, it's good. It's good. Mateus Fernandez and Tonali are really, really good players. I'd be happy with that. It's hard to look beyond Elliot Anderson for me personally. I don't know about you guys, but like, I'm not saying I'd be disappointed. I'm not saying I'd be unhappy with that midfield, but I almost feel like I'd be a little disappointed if we don't get Anderson at this point. Not because we will, but because like, for me, Anderson is so clearly the best midfielder on the market. I think most people probably feel that way. You know what I mean? I think most people probably feel that. And so it's like, Anderson is the one where it feels like missing out on the rice if we don't get him. That's how I feel about it anyway. To me, that's it's not like he's the only midfielder in football that's good. It's not like he's the only midfielder in football that improve us. Mateus Fernandez, Tonali, that's really good with Berge's depth. That's good. That's great. I like it. It's a good midfield. We'd be a lot better. Could be incredible. But missing on Elliot Anderson would feel really disappointing. It's just like, it'd feel like, but we missed out on this once every 6 years, 10 years type of midfielder that comes along through England. You know what I mean? Especially when you have Kobe. Because what he's doing, you're looking at, we may already have an at-home once every long time English midfielder. And if we could partner him with the right guy, it would feel really, 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 really damn good. It would feel really, really good. Wharton is really good too. I mean, look, don't get me wrong about Adam Wharton. Adam Wharton is an incredibly talented player. I don't think Adam Wharton and Kobe is the right decision. I just don't see how that works. And, you know, it's whatever. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that. That's not like a James Kobe can't run take. That's something that I've seen is consistently felt from other people who are totally sit at opposite ends to me and things like that too on a lot of stuff. But like, I don't think that Kobe and Wharton is a good pairing. You know, it's just obvious that to me that just doesn't work. There is still a need for that explosive over 10 yards, 20 yards types of athletes in your midfield. It's not combative enough in that respect. I think it puts the burden on Kobe to become essentially like a destroying 6, and I just don't see that that's going to work. Wharton on-ball quality is probably second to none, but we have on-ball quality in the team, you know? We need that and the other side of it, or we're just trading one for the other. I mean, Casemiro's doing incredible things right now. Casemiro's doing incredible things right now.
Do you think United will pay 200 million for Tonali and Anderson? Because I can't see us doing that.
Well, why not? You know what I mean? Like, I hear you in terms of saying you can't see it, but why not? Like I get that. I get like there's an inclination to say we won't do it or something, or feel like we won't do it, but why? Why? Why wouldn't we? But why not? Here's why when I say why not. What did we do last summer? We went for the two best wingers in the Premier League. True or not? We went for two of the best Premier League wingers in the whole Prem. Two of the best Premier League wingers. The two best, probably. Outside of top clubs where they're not moving, like Mo Salah and such, right? And we didn't even have Champions League. I think historically, United have consistently, in our heyday, went and bought the best of the rest, whatever the cost. Like, people forget, I'm not saying we always spent the most money, but we certainly did spend the most sometimes. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we did break the transfer record a few times in England, right? For players from the best of the rest in key positions. We did, didn't we? On a few occasions. We were willing to pay a premium. I mean, that's United DNA. We paid a premium. We didn't just... Look, everybody didn't come from Carrington for Sir Alex. We paid some big money for some big players. And I'm just looking and saying, sure, we paid high prices for Mbeumo and Cunha because they were the two best wingers and we needed wingers. Or forwards, and we needed forwards. We paid... And this summer, when we're looking at midfielders, we're going to look for the best midfielders in the Premier League. What's the market value of those players? And we're going to pay around that. Rio was a big buy. Yep. And they're the right age. Yeah, exactly. Like, we've done it quite a few times. They're the right age. They'll stay for a long time. I'm not saying we will spend both, and I get it. Like, there's an inclination to feel like, yeah, we're not going to buy both. But I'll tell you this. United want to get back to winning titles. They're fully in on their plan to competing for titles in a couple of years, even next season. That means United must have a team that is worthy of competing for titles. That means we must have a midfield that can compete with the likes of Arsenal, that can compete with the likes of City, that can compete with the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool. And it must be able to compete with the best in Europe as well. And that means we have to buy the best players. And the way that we approached last summer's market was to buy the best available players and pay what it took. The midfield is a more expensive market. Perhaps that's why we didn't do it last summer, because we felt these are players that are available at these prices. Between Cunha and Mbeumo, there's a release clause. There's last year of the contract. There's things that helped us. But we still paid significant money. This year, it's the midfield market. We need and want to build the best midfield in England. That's the team we want. The best team. The best squad. Sir Jim's gone on record saying it's the biggest catalyst to success is being able to spend the most on the best players. If we get Champions League, they will want to build the best possible team. And it is the midfield this summer. So even though it feels unlikely to pay $200 million for two players, I wouldn't rule out doing it. And there is a serious intention for it. It's not made up. It's not a fairy tale. We want the best players possible. And I think we will spend for it because we can't keep, we won't go back and be buying players that aren't good enough just to save a little bit of money. We didn't do it last summer, and we're going to do it this summer. We're going to buy the best available players and go all in on them. And that means maybe it's Anderson. That means maybe it's Tonali. That means maybe it's this and that, and they will go for it. If we miss, well, fair enough. We're going to have to move down our lists. But if they don't miss and we have Champions League, then we can get 2 top midfielders coming, and we need it. So don't rule it out. That's all I'm saying. Don't rule it out. The intention is not the problem. The intention is not the problem. That's for sure. And look, yes, there's the factor of Bruno, but you also have to bear in mind, like, we still don't even know if Bruno's going to stay, and we have to consider that. We don't know that Bruno's going to stay, and if he does, we don't know how long, and we have multiple competitions to be in. Look, if we only bought 1 top midfielder and all we had was Anderson, Kabi, and Bruno, I'm sorry, that's not even close to enough by way of top midfields. Not even close. 3, that's it. 1 who's in his 30s, 1 who's very young. You're playing 60 games in a season. No way. That's not enough. It's not even close. And then you have to think about Bruno's future. And he's not going to be here forever, but he could stay for sure. But even if he does, you have to have at least 4 top players in each of these areas. 4 top forwards, 4 top midfielders, and then depth. You can't just have your 3. It's so dangerous. Look at the team, and we have people who've come from City. Look at how many forwards they had at one time. Sane, Sterling, Aguero, Mahrez and Silva. Like, they had Gabriel Jesus. They had forwards on forwards on forwards on, like, for everything they had redundancies. So many players, and we may not ever have the kind of depth that they've had, but I'm positive that they will be looking at it on the front of, look at our forwards now: Šeško, Cunha, Mbumo, Ahmad. We still want another winger on top of that. That tells you the way that they think, that we need to have 5 top players for these positions. 5 for 3. The midfield, you're not getting away with just 3. There's just no way. So we'll see, okay? Yeah, we used to have 4 strikers for 2 positions. At all times, we had 4 strikers. Like, always. So I'm confident in the intention. Whether or not we can win the battle for them, that's a totally, totally different question. That's a discussion for later. Links to Mateus Fernandes. Look, we're interested in a lot of players, and he's certainly somebody to keep on that list. So that's it. United, I think that, Tonali is an option we're going to keep. It's really interesting. The fact that it's been reported by McGrath and growing, very, 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 very intriguing, and we'll have to think a lot about that and consider it. But it's good. Whether it's with Anderson, whether it's a redundancy if Anderson picks City and then we have a free run at him or something in England, as long as first goal is Champions League. We've got to get Champions League. We just have to. We've got to get Champions League. So let's talk about West Ham, because we have a game tomorrow, believe it or not. We have a game tomorrow. Crazy. Fast turnaround. It feels like in ages since we've had a fast turnaround, and then of course we get a long layoff. But a big game, obviously, going for 5 in a row. Not just that, though. It's huge implications on the table, on our ability to solidify ourselves strongly into those top spots. We could catch Aston Villa. We could catch up closer to City. We could build a gap between us and the others. And it's also, to a degree, maybe the most banana peel game that we've seen as of yet, right? In this structure. Like, City and Arsenal, big games. Spurs, they're playing shit this year, but obviously a rival, and God, they were bad. Fulham at home is a tough game. This is the easiest game so far on paper, but they play pretty well. We haven't beat them away since 2022. It wasn't just last year, 2022. They've been weird for us. They've caused us problems. Who knows how this game is going to go? It's and then we have this long layoff. We're all like feeling super confident. I know. I the haircut thing is like, I don't even want to talk about it. No, I'm not going to say that. It's just, we could destroy them. We could absolutely destroy them. It could be a bloodbath. But we'll see. And the next 2 weeks is going to be interesting on that basis. Because if we don't win, you're going to have people, not me, because I haven't done this and I don't intend to do this because I really just want the club to be ultimately very successful. You have people who are going to pipe up and say, look, it was all bad, blah, blah, blah. It's not that good. We're still falling down against poor teams. And it's going to lead to discussion about Carrick, and it's going to lead to discussion about this and that. Of course, if we win, you're going to have the same discussions alternatively. But Ten Hag did lose after West Ham. It's exactly that, Aaron. Everybody's so happy and so confident right now. The more it gets, the more as a United fan, you're like, what is waiting around the corner? What is waiting around the corner? You know what I mean? That's just how you feel. Like, what is waiting around the corner? Every time we start to feel really happy over the last 10 years, there's just something waiting around the corner. But yeah, the famous Dallo miss. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. So interesting game there. I'm still worried about Matthijs de Ligt. Listening to Michael Carrick's comments about him, it doesn't sound like de Ligt's coming back anytime soon, does it? I'm not trying to tell me if I'm being overly negative, but it doesn't sound like, obviously I've said the things over the last week or so that I've heard. It doesn't sound like de Ligt's coming back anytime soon. It really doesn't. And that kind of sucks. I'm really concerned. It's starting to feel really worrying. Like we're not here, we're getting, it just like there's no target, it feels like. And that's concerning. I'm like, is this guy going to end up playing again this season or what? And that's obviously going to lead to questions in the summer. If Maguire goes, if de Ligt is not back before then, and he was having a good year, but I'm just looking at it like, this is so odd. And I'm not saying it's odd from a club perspective. It's just such an odd situation. I don't even know how to think about it yet if he doesn't come back this season. Because you have to start to think about, is this something that's permanently bad? Are we screwed? Is this it? Yeah, it's just strange. I don't know what to think in general. So I guess we'll just keep riding it out and yeah. So I don't know in that respect. What to think about it, but I think kind of like Marsh's back industry. But Mount will definitely be back by the next game. Obviously, we have a bit of a runway to the next one. But the fact that we can't even say de Ligt will be back in 2 weeks means he's nowhere near it, right? And I think that even just given the doubt over his injuries, I'm feeling like right now, just give Maguire the extension. Then, yeah, I saw that, Shatters, as well. I don't know. Maybe we just need to give Maguire the extension so we know we have a center back. Even outside of discussion of whether we have to sign someone, I'm kind of just just keep Maguire then. We don't even know if we'll have de Ligt in the future. It's just strange. It's a really, really strange injury and a strange situation. I'm not sure what to think about. So that's that. Let's look at these picks really quick and then talk about the lineup, because I don't think there's going to be any surprises, but it is a short turnaround. So we'll do a really quick vote on it just to see if we want to do anything different. These are the picks for tomorrow's game. Interesting one. Does Kobbie Mainoo commit 2 or more fouls? Now, does Kobbie Mainoo foul a lot? I wanted to research this. It just got me thinking about it. I remember Kobbie getting 1 foul. I don't think Kobbie Mainoo fouls a lot. Does he? I don't think Kobbie Mainoo commits a lot of fouls, but 2 is a really low number in a tough midfield fight. This is a tough one. Ahmad will score, give an assist. I feel like is a no. And about Ahmad, you know what's kind of frustrating is I feel like when Ahmad plays his best, he doesn't get goals and assists because he's doing so much for the team. But when Ahmad is having a tough game is usually when he pulls out some crazy goal or something like that and does it. So these are probably, I was looking at these picks and they were just having me thinking about a couple of things from these players. Will United lead at halftime? Will score under 2 goals. That means 1. So I think I'm going to go with a no there. Over 4 cards in the match. I don't think it'll be as crazy as the last game. Under 10 corners. I don't know about that one. I'm going to go with these 3 is probably what I'm going to pick for mine. But yeah, these are interesting. I need to look into this. What is Kobbie Mainoo's average fouls rate? I don't know. Ahmad has been getting heat on social somewhat. Why? But Ahmad is the glue, man. And I it's like Ahmad really is so important. He's so important that it's hard to even discuss it otherwise because I think we saw this before, and it wasn't just because of Amram, but like, remember when, there's your guys' vote on that, by the way. 54% says Tonali's great. A lot of people would be happy with Tonali, fair enough. Ahmad works really, really hard, and through the rest of the season, it was the same thing. When Ahmad wasn't out wide, you saw those fullbacks exposed, those wide defenders exposed, right? Be it Mazraoui or Dallo or whatever, like, you know, they had a really tough time when Ahmad wasn't out wide. The center backs did. A lot of people did. We had struggled with build-up without Ahmad out there. You know, we had struggles with pressing without Ahmad out there. Ahmad is probably, I swear, he's definitely a player like, we just play different when Ahmad is on the pitch. There's so many things he does and unlocks that go under the radar. He's that good. And it'd be great if he was scoring more goals and things these days, but we've been winning without him needing to. So, yeah. I don't know. He shouldn't be getting much heat. Tonali's a Cassie straight replacement. Yeah, I think that's fair, too. So let's look at the team. Changes. No changes. Should we make any changes from the last game? Let's just do that simple vote because we don't have any more players available. We don't have any fresh injuries. Should we make any changes to the team from the last game? I have a feeling it's just ride it out straight, right? I mean, I think that's what most people will vote. Just keep doing what we're doing. And honestly, like, if I was going to make one change, I'd be trying to figure out how to get Šeško in. But for who? Cunha? Move Mbeumo to the left? Like, if I had to think about one change, it might be that. But I don't... Because Cunha was really effective off the bench. A little less so as a starter, but I still think he was incredibly important against Spurs and a lot of the things he did as well off the ball. I kind of want Šeško to come in as a striker, but I can't, you can't bench Mbeumo. And I definitely can't bench Ahmad. Yeah, the potential Mbeumo injury. There's no injury, but yeah, I hear you about limping and maybe, you know, it's a short turnaround, but we have a long layoff after. So I guess just don't change anything. You know, I would still lean to that. My one inclination is getting Šeško on sooner than later. But for now, right, don't change anything. Just make a lot of early subs. Can Cass do 2 games in 3 days? He did earlier. I think you got to take him off sooner. But I'd be surprised if we changed the team. Because we have such a long layoff after this. I'd be surprised. Because you can always make a lot of subs in, 50 minutes, 55 minutes. And we have a fit squad. I mean, you have to say that. Something we couldn't have maybe said in the past. We do have a very fit squad. Definitely the best in terms of fitness that we've seen in a long, long time. I'm not so worried there. Yeah, I don't really like Mbeumo or Ahmad at left wing too. I mean, Mbeumo's done okay at left wing. He did play a bit off the left against Spurs, by the way. Cunha up front and Mbeumo off the left. He did play off the left a bit more, and I think he was actually pretty good there. I remember noting it in game that he had played off of the left. I wanted to show something here because there were a couple little wrinkles in how we played that were a bit different against Spurs than usual, especially with the ball. But Mbeumo was playing mostly kind of off the left compared to Cunha in that game. I think it even has Cunha down as the striker. Like this. Cunha a little bit, just a bit more centrally. They were rotating, to be fair, but Cunha was definitely a little more central than he was. But we don't really play with like a left winger with the guys we have right now. All right, so you guys say no changes. Let's end it at 69%. Very nice. I agree. I think we just go with no changes. I mean, I think we're all sitting here, right, as fans going, we've had a lot of opinions. We voted for teams. We've picked teams. We thought this guy needs to play and that guy needs to play and this guy doesn't and that guy does and this might need to work and that needs to happen. And we've not seen anything consistent in years. We're winning games of football. I think every one of us is like scared to even suggest that a change might be necessary or that we should make any sort of change because we're winning games of football 4 in a row. So what else? Anything on these Saudi friendlies? Apparently a report that we're not going to do it. That's the latest. Says for now, Time Sport says for now it looks like Manchester United won't be heading to the Middle East for an exhibition match. I don't know. I guess not. I guess not. So it's going to be long. It's going to be long those weeks, man. 21 days we're going to have between games coming up soon. Long. It's going to be really long. Very boring. We'll have to figure out something to fill the time. But we might be in the thick of transfers and manager stuff at that time. And by the way, I forgot to mention, did you guys see them say, people saying, we have started our exploration of coaches. I've heard some interesting things. Too early to share because they'll just cause panic and they'll potentially be wrong, to be fair, because again, it's too early. But I've been hearing some interesting things over the last week, and I've been like things that I think are too definitive to be true at the point that we are. And then I see reports and things coming out saying, hey, that we're talking to coaches and stuff. So I'm thinking, all right, that's why I'm hearing that. And I'm wondering how much of what I'm hearing is PR and from people selling it and how much is real. And I don't know. But yeah, I'll have to stream games, pro clubs, Patreon pro clubs, maybe. We'll find something to do, I guess. I'll have to set something up. Not Southgate. It's going to be Southgate. They'll go Southgate and Rashford will stay. They'll go Southgate and Rashford will stay. I'm telling you. I'm hearing it even today. They'll go Southgate and Rashford will stay. It won't be Southgate. It won't be Southgate. Don't worry about that. I say panic because I think people are I don't think people are knowing what to do, and I think a lot of people want Carrick, and so if you were to hear anything even about any manager right now, I feel like the reaction would be bad. Like if I was to say right now, X gets the job, almost no matter who it is, bar Enrique, people would be in a panic. You know what I mean? Not everybody, but enough, because I don't think there's any sort of consensus in this United community about what we should do next yet. You know what I'm saying? about in any United community. I don't think there's any consensus right now about what we should do next. So I don't think there's anything that we could say that could be said right now that would result in positivity. If I was to say Carrick's got the job, people would be like, what the fuck? We didn't even explore other targets. We went straight for Carrick. We've panicked again. We haven't learned anything. If you said anybody else, they would say, well, how have we decided that already? What if Carrick gets us top 4? This could be a huge mistake. You know what I mean? Like, there's no good answer right now, which is, of course, why nothing's going to come out for some time on this. But I think by that stretch and end of March, April will be around there. But I have heard some things, some of which may be true, some of which may be slightly dramatized, but it's just not worth talking about yet. Because a lot can still happen, and I don't think that it's done in any sense as of yet, personally. But I certainly believe there are people with their preferences, and we'll see who gets their way in the. But yeah. All right, that's it. It's been a good video. It's been a nice, calm live. I appreciate you all guys all so much. You want to be a member. That's a reminder. I apologize, guys, on a members thing. I will make you a video. We've got 2 weeks in the next little bit. I've just been busy. I promise you 1 or 2 members videos. Maybe I'll share some of these early manager rumors that I'm hearing in the members video for YouTube. So for those of you who are members, you may get a sneak peek at that, because I will hope that on a smaller scale, you'll understand not to take it too seriously as of yet. I mean, we'll see about that. These things haunt me sometimes, but I guarantee you a couple videos over the next couple weeks for members on YouTube, and that is also in the Patreon. But yeah. Gary Neville said the club told them they've started the process and Carrick will be added. Exactly. Yes, that's all true. That's all true. But there you have it. Thank you all. I appreciate all of you so much. I'll obviously be back tomorrow for the game. I'll be there for pre-match live. We'll be there before lineups to discuss everything. We'll do our pre-match show. I'll be over on Big Up for the matchup itself. I'll come here for post-match yap and all of that. Once again, you can use the link below to go and get your picks in for the game. And see what you want and play the game with us over there, whether you join the watch along or not. Make sure as well to download the app. Also, Proton VPN, once again, sponsored there, that you can get 70% off 2 years or 60% off a year, or pay by the month, 30-day money-back guarantee, safe, secure, and fast as well. Okay, and that's it for today. It's been nice. It's been a nice, good video. Hour and 22 minutes, quite long, but it's been fun. Good volume of people hanging out here. It's nice to get to talk about some transfer stuff again a little bit, and to hear some things, because it's been very dry in January, obviously, and hope over the next 2 weeks, aside from members videos and things, I will also start to build out my big list video of all the players that we've looked at, all the different positions and everything. I'll probably do it as an early release on members for even just a few hours or a day, and then it'll come out. We'll have that during the 2 weeks off and everything too. Okay. Big Up is where I do my watch-alongs. Okay. That's where I do my watch-alongs. You can click the link below to go check the site out. That's where I do the watch-along. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to smash a like on the video. Check out the podcast with Phil earlier if you haven't as of yet. Subscribe, all of that. Let's hope tomorrow we come back. Big win, 5 in a row. Head into this 2-week kind of gap here with flying emotions riding high and lots of good things to discuss and confidence that we're going to get Champions League, which is so important to our plans. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good night.